Hello and welcome, my friends. This is Brian the Speaker for the Dead, coming to you today because I wanted to discuss with you guys Amazon. So, Amazon is kind of a strange duck to figure out. I think that the problem with Amazon is that it's Amazon. I think it's a great company for buying stuff you want off the internet, getting it shipped to you, and stuff like that. I think, it's a great marketplace type company. But then they went and got into entertainment. With Amazon Prime, which I have because of my wife. She got Amazon Prime a long time ago, back when Amazon Prime came with being able to watch TV shows, rent movies, blah blah blah. But she got it mainly for the buying and shipping and all that stuff. This is years and years ago, when Amazon was just starting to get big. And then, we eventually started using Amazon Prime, the video side of it. And it was didn't used to be that bad. But as Amazon got bigger and bigger and decided to go more and more into the entertainment side of things, we saw just something unpleasant develop. Now, Hollywood and the world, honestly, at this point, has enough people and companies out there that are screwing things up, that are bastardizing stuff. And every it seems like every day, every year, the list gets longer and longer and longer and longer of properties, IPs, book series, everything getting the woke treatment. That nothing will be left. These companies, I think they've decided to engage in a complete scorched earth policy. They are not going to leave us anything. And see, a company like Amazon is kind of the perfect company for that. Because here you have a company that its base is not in entertainment. Its major aspect of where it gets its money has nothing to do with that. So they can afford to spend millions and billions of dollars, honestly, on entertainment properties, and if they don't make any money off of them, they can just write it all off. That's not where they make most of their money anyway. They're making money hand over fist with selling stuff to you and me every day and shipping it to our house and stuff. And COVID just made them that much bigger. And so, and I think the major problem is Jeff Bezos. I think Jeff Bezos is one of these people who has made a lot of money, who's got all this wealth, all this power now, and I think he's been co-opted by what you might call the old money, the people who are behind the scenes, who have made vast fortunes in the past and have put those fortunes to use trying to influence human development, human interactions, human history. And these are not people who have our best interests at heart. Maybe they thought they did at one time, but they have completely been corrupted, if they weren't corrupt from the very beginning, and who knows. I wasn't there, you weren't there. But these families and these people, the Soroses, the Vanderbergs, the Bilderbergs, the Wonderbergs, the Fairchild, all of the conspiracy names that you guys all know. And I think those guys are just the face. I think there's a lot of these people that are behind the scenes that we'll never know the names of, or if we do, it's a fleeting mention, and they're never seen as the master manipulators. But now, in my faith, we have something that we call secret combinations, and that this has been something that's happened throughout civilizations down through time. And it's just basically groups that get power, and then they intertwine, and they corrupt with between businesses and government, and it basically has tendrils that snake out and get into everything and control stuff behind the scenes. And I think, we have more evidence of it today right now than we've had for a long time, because of the internet and stuff like that. But you can watch it happen in real time, where Nancy Pelosi and loads of people, and Republicans and Democrats, independent, that they're corrupted. They come from out here in the country, and then they go to Washington, and they very quickly are absorbed into the machine. And if they will not play ball, you watch them kind of get kicked to the side, and they're marginalized, and nobody ever really talks about them. And it's really sad to see, because most of the good people that get sent back there, like a Jim Jordan or whatever, they get marginalized and treated like crap, because they won't assimilate into the system. But that's why you see all of these corrupt, crooked politicians, and the Clintons and the Obamas and the Bushes and all these people. They never get caught for anything. And even when they're caught red-handed doing something absolutely illegal, they never suffer consequences. Nothing ever happens to them. Somehow they're protected from their actions. And I think Jeff Bezos is one of those people. Sorry to go off on a little bit of a tangent there, but I want to bring this back because I think it explains Amazon and what Amazon is currently doing with entertainment. I think Amazon is just the latest incarnation of knowing that they can write off all this money. And here's my examples of this. I love The Expanse. The Expanse is fantastic. It is a great series. The books by S.A.E. Corey. I may have got that wrong, but you get what I mean. It is a fantastic book series. Very, very good. It's kind of a dystopian type thing, but it feels very realistic. It feels very like something that could actually happen. And then they proceeded to make a series on the Sci-Fi Network of The Expanse. And for the first 3 seasons, fantastic. Absolutely great. Tried to do a very good job, I think, in my opinion, of trying to follow the source material. They had to cut certain things and put certain things in. In fact, in the TV series, I think the version of the proto-molecule actually came off way better than the way it was described in the book. I think they actually did a better job, which is how rare is that for something described in a book to actually be made a little bit better in a series. And they did. Made it way scarier, in my opinion. And so the first 3 seasons were great, and then around the 4th season, and I don't remember exactly the timing on this. They started thinking about canceling it, and they were looking for somebody to save it. Cass Anvar, which was one of the cast, really worked hard, and I think a lot of them did, to try and make sure that this series would get picked up by somebody else. And it gets picked up by Amazon. Now, I think season 4, you're still seeing a lot of the influence and a lot of like the pre-production, the script writing and everything was coming still out of the Sci-Fi Network. And so season 4 is still actually pretty good. It's actually still a decent series. And I have to credit my brother on this, because I had no interest in The Expanse. I'd seen little bits of it here and there, but I was just like, ugh. And I went to his house one day, and he forced me to sit down and watch an episode of The Expanse. And that's all it took. I watched one episode and was hooked. was hooked. I went back and started at the beginning and just went clear through and up to where they were, I think, which they were around the 3rd or 4th season at that time. I have to credit my brother for getting me into that. It was just great. And then once Amazon bought it, it immediately, once the Sci-Fi Network, I think any influence that had come from them was gone, it just off a cliff. I mean, and it went downhill fairly quick. You see Cass Anvar's character get marginalized because a bunch of accusers came forward and Me Too'd him. No evidence, no court dates, no verdicts rendered, and he was gone. And so he was one of the early casualties of the Me Too movement. When just having somebody say, "Please touch me in my special place," was just, you were gone. I mean, there was no, hey, let's look into this, let's find out the facts. Is it? No, gone. And that's what happened to him. And he was, at first, I didn't like him. I didn't understand his character. And then as you learn why he is the way he is, he became one of my favorite characters. I mean, he is really good. And he was a great actor for that part. Just excellent casting. And Amazon literally drove that series into the ground. By season 6, which is its last season, it was garbage. It was like, what? I mean, you still have the same characters, but the feel of the show, the realism, I mean, they started, you could see all of this stuff that was changing, and they really ruined a great series. And so that brings us to current day, where, and this isn't the first time, Amazon spent how much money on getting access to the Lord of the Rings? And instead of making a new Lord of the Rings TV show where they basically go back, I mean, they had an opportunity to do what most of these places have to do, and then they're just like, and they just waste it. They just ruin something that could have been great. They could have went back and actually remade the Lord of the Rings in a TV show series, going through all of the steps, showing everything that happened to the Fellowship up until the point where it's dissolved. I mean, they could have shown the Tom Bombadil, they could have showed the Barrow Downs, they could have gone back and reincorporated everything into the Lord of the Rings series that happened, and they didn't. They went back and they took this little chunk of I can't remember what they call it, the precursor or something like that to the Lord of the Rings. Not the Silmarillion. They're similar. Is Silmarillion? I always say that wrong. I used to say the Silmarillion. I think that's how you actually say it. Because it's basically the story of the Silmarils, is one of the major parts of that. But no, they didn't do that. They went and took this little teeny chunk of a precursor to Lord of the Rings, and they built this whole series around it. And they started, immediately casting black elves. They started creating characters, the Harfoots, that weren't even talked about really. Or if they were, it was like, well, then there were Harfoots, and then it was it. And they spent billions on this, and basically flushed all of that money down the toilet. That show has no following of any consequence. It comes out, they drop a season, and everybody's just like, well, I guess that happened. And then they're off to do something. Nobody cares. Nobody's even interested. They did the same thing with the Wheel of Time. They brought that out, which I honestly, I can tell you, I have no knowledge of that series. And I don't care. I'm not interested in it. And maybe the books are great and stuff like that, but all I know is that the people who like the books and stuff like that say it is an absolute just Travis Schmockery, that show is just the worst. It is so bad for the source material. Which brings us to current day, where we actually have almost blatant evidence now because of the cancellation of Stargate, the new Stargate series that they were planning, where they actually say in the Vanity Fair article that talks about the cancellation that they got rid of it because Amazon was afraid that the fans would like it too much. So you immediately do all what Hollywood has been doing for years. You immediately destroy or split or absolutely turn off the built-in audience that you already have with this property in lieu of an audience that you hope to get. Not grab the built-in audience and then build it, make it better, go bigger, go whatever, like expand it and really build something fantastic. No, we're going to try and start from scratch with nothing, and we're going to make a really horrible version of this, because that's the sad part about this. And when I heard the Stargate was canceled, I was both happy and sad. I was sad because its cancellation meant we were probably going to get something good. But up until that point, I was just afraid of what they were going to do to it. But I had hope because they had brought the original creators back. It looked like they were going down the right path. And that should have been the danger sign, knowing that it was never going to see the light of day, because there was just too much possibility that people would actually like it. And they're not there to do that. That's the crux of my whole video today. They're there to destroy. They are there to undermine. They are there to destroy IPs, to rot out our culture, to take anything and everything that anybody has ever loved ever, that had any kind of moral foundation or decency or honor or any virtuous type of thing, and they've got to twist it and torment it and turn it into something evil and foul, like the orcs from Lord of the Rings. That's how we get the orcs in Lord of the Rings. They take elves and they corrupt them to the point where they become dark and evil and foul and twisted, and that's what they do. That is Satan's whole thing, and it's one of the things that Lord of the Rings is talking about through its whole run, is the twisting of something that was once good into something that is evil. And all of these corporations and all these people like the Jeff Bezoses and the people in Hollywood and all of their ilk that are currently in the process of corrupting and undermining everything all of us have ever had or loved or grew up with is solely to crush our spirits, to crush our souls, to give us nothing to hang on to take from our children the Star Wars series, to take from our children the Lord of the Rings, to take from our kids, so that by the time we get to our kids and we're going to start teaching them about things that we loved and things that might teach them values and stuff, all of those things have been corrupted. So, and I've seen this with my children. I have actually watched this happen, where I try and tell my kids, look, that is not, like, what you're seeing is not what is a good thing. And I can't even think of it right off the top of my head. But it was a TV show that I liked when I was growing up, and my kids were watching the new and updated version of it. And they're like, oh, this is really good. And I'm just like, it is so not good. It is so not good. And that's what they're doing. They're taking that away. They are twisting our childhoods and twisting our children's childhoods so that they find nothing with any merit or value. And this is the point of what they're trying to do. And that's the sad part. And so that's why we need to make sure that we are watching these things, that we are talking to our kids, that we are talking to our grandkids, we are talking to, and letting them know, look, you want to know what was really good, you go back to this point. And it's hard because the older stuff, like old Star Trek, the original series and stuff like that, it is dated. It looks of its time. It's hard for them to watch because they've grown up with, the MCU. They've grown up with Spider-Man, and they've grown up with all these things where the technology has moved on and it looks so much better. So when they go back to watch that older stuff, and that's the problem, is it's a beautiful deception, which is what Satan does. He always wants people who are evil most of the time don't want you to know they're evil. They want you to think they're great. Just like Sauron in the Lord of the Rings series, that's how Sauron cheats all of these people in the beginning. He looks very beautiful. He looks like a good guy. He looks and sounds like somebody you should listen to, and a wise person. And oh, he's so silver-tongued, and that's how they get these people. That's nobody evil wants you to know they're evil right away. They want to corrupt you and ruin you first. And that's what these are, just cautionary tales to tell us, scriptural tales tell the same exact story. They just do it in a more direct, moralistic way. And so that's my message to you guys today: is beware the Amazons bearing gifts. They play on the old, beware Greeks bearing gifts. And watch out for them, and teach your children and the people around you what to watch out for. That's why I make these videos and stuff, to help other people maybe, and to see who agrees with me, and see if I'm alone out there in noticing what's happening. Now, I see a lot of people making videos on this, so I know that I'm not alone. But I wanted to give you my take on this. I apologize, this is a little bit longer video, but I've tried to do this video several times, and to condense the examples and everything down to a very, very quick thing is not easy. Because you need to see it's one thing to show one example, like The Expanse or whatever, but it just happens over and over and over and over and over again. And people sometimes don't detect the pattern, and we need to be looking for these patterns of darkness, so that when they happen, we can stand up against them, or pay them no mind whatsoever. When this new Stargate series, which we know will eventually comes out, I will pay no attention to it whatsoever, because they purposely went to get rid of us. I'll help them out with that. I won't help them. I don't want to make money off of me if they're not interested in actually making something for me. I mean, why would I do that? Anyway, let me know what you guys think in the comments. Appreciate your watch, and we will talk to you all next time. Bye now.